Why COVID-19 remains a consistent threat in the US. In the United States right now, it seems everyone has either had COVID-19 or knows someone who has had it. Yes, we should be thankful that the overwhelming number of cases ended within a few days of diagnosis and with no lasting side effects. But that is not good enough, sadly. There remain dark clouds on the horizon. The case count remains stubbornly high. More ominously, no lasting health effects or deaths cannot be ignored. And let us not forget that as fall begins in the US, a likely bad flu season is projected. One US news organization went so far as to suggest that influenza appears poised to stage a comeback this year in the US, threatening to cause a no-fear epidemic in which flu and COVID-19 cases rise alongside each other and put significant strain on Americans' health care workers and the medical system. Let's begin by looking at the big picture. According to recent data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, almost 96 million Americans, or roughly 13% of the entire population, have been diagnosed with COVID-19. Roughly 1.05 million of these cases ended in death. I mention this data to validate a point. No other country in the world comes close to case load and death toll, and that means the United States, which prides itself on its exceptionalism, is the undisputed global leader in infections and deaths. There is another subset of COVID-19 sufferers who cannot be forgotten: non-COVID victims. A recent study examined that phenomenon, and the results should frighten us all. According to mid-ranks, roughly 7% of survey respondents throughout the US affirmed they had non-COVID, which the CDC defines as conditions can last weeks, months, or longer. Digging deeper into the mid-range results, which are still to be peer-reviewed, 25% of respondents suggested non-COVID affected their daily life or not, and many of them reported they were diagnosed with COVID-19 roughly, if not more than 1 year ago. The researchers concluded that people with underlying health conditions and people who had not received a COVID-19 booster shot or who had never been vaccinated were more likely to experience non-COVID. Remember, more likely does not mean guaranteed. An incomplete list of the side effects of non-COVID includes exhaustion, cognitive issues, and chronic pain. Of course, the problem is not limited to the US. As just one example, in the United Kingdom, members of the COVID-19 committee recently wrote a letter to the National New Secretary for Health and Social Care. In that communication, the members offered this shocking statement: one astounding statistic is that more than 2% of 35 to 49-year-olds in the UK have had non-COVID for more than a year, equivalent to around 216,000 people out of a total of nearly 930 in their prime working year with no COVID. Returning to the US, there are questions that demand answers. Why does COVID-19 remain a problem almost 31 months after the first cases were discovered in the US? How can this nation of exceptionalism not find a path to solve the crisis? So the federal government is an easy target, and yes, some of the blame does reside in Washington. Former US President Donald Trump poisoned the well beginning in the spring of 2020 when he began saying that COVID-19 was nothing more than a version of the flu. He resisted calls from the medical community to use the government's power to address the developing crisis because he seemed far more interested in blaming China for causing it. The president's dangerous rhetoric gained traction in many parts of the country, and it soon was picked up by Republican governors in multiple states. They were eager to curry favor with the man who they hoped would be re-elected that fall. As a result, they saw no reason to support calls to temporarily move education to an online environment or to promote vaccinations. They also went now with unconsiderable claims at the grassroots level that the government had no right to impinge on my freedom. While it is true that Trump's successor has urged Americans to remain vigilant about COVID-19, we must not forget that US President Joe Biden told a news interviewer about a week ago that COVID-19 was over. At least one medical doctor was not impressed. He reminded the New York Times that the virus is still the fourth highest cause of death in the US. The average Joe and Joseph American must be held accountable for the carnage as well. In general, these groups fall into one of two populations. They either never believed COVID-19 was a problem to begin with, or they now believe that they are immune from the worst of the virus because they have been fully vaccinated. In fact, the former group is guilty of ignorance, and the latter group is guilty of arrogance. These groups, and they make up a large percentage of the American population, have left COVID-19 behind. They either never stopped running their lives as they had always run them, or they now want to catch up on all those seemingly precious things they were unable to do for years or more. Lastly, we cannot forget that the role that almost all the mainstream media have played. They have reported the ins and outs of the virus, but they continue to suggest policies adopted by other nations to control COVID-19 spread are radical or inhumane. Of course, China and its zero COVID coexistence is the most prominent example. Inexplicably, these news organizations want their audience to believe that being the global leader in infections and deaths is somehow better than any other alternative, including lockdowns. More than 1 million dead Americans might disagree if they could.